Lately, I've noticed something shifting, not in the headlines, but in everyday conversations with friends, with people my age, and honestly, in my own thinking too. We're not really talking about early retirement anymore. We're talking about whether retirement will be comfortable at all and what comfortable even means now. For a long time, retirement was pitched as a clean stage of life. You worked, you stopped, and then you lived off what you'd built. But for a lot of people, that picture doesn't quite fit anymore. As living costs rise and money doesn't stretch the way it used to, more people are becoming aware that retirement has moved and may continue to move. So the question quietly shifts from when do I retire to something more practical. How long do I need to keep working? What kind of work can I realistically do as I get older? I see this coming up more and more in conversations with friends. Some are only just properly looking at their pension for the first time. Some are realising they may need to work longer than they expected. Others aren't thinking about stopping work at all, but about how to change the way they're working. I also know people in their 60s and 70s who are still working, not because they love their job, not because they're bored, but because financially continuing to earn in some form makes life feel steadier. Sometimes it's part-time work, sometimes it's something completely different from what they did before, and increasingly it's work that looks more flexible than a traditional job. That this is where technology starts to come into the picture, often by necessity and not enthusiasm. For a lot of people, tech isn't something that feels instinctive or comfortable. It's not how we started our working lives, but more and more it's the bridge between being able to keep earning and being physically and mentally stretched by traditional work. That might mean learning to work online in some way, using digital tools to manage flexible hours, exploring self-employment or small-scale income streams that didn't really exist before. Not because it's trendy, but because it's practical, and that learning curve can feel uncomfortable. I've had conversations with friends who say things like, I'm not a tech person, I wouldn't know where to start. That feels like a young person's world. But the reality is, many of us are now having to learn and implement new ways of working later in life, not as a passion project, but as part of making work sustainable for longer. For some people, self-employment becomes part of the picture, not necessarily building a big business, not quitting everything and taking massive risk, but doing something smaller, steadier, more flexible, often alongside other income, so they have more control over time, pace, and energy. Again, it isn't about chasing hustle culture, it's just about adapting. For me personally, this has shifted how I think about the future. I think less about a fixed retirement date and more about how I work, how I'm going to work as I get older. What kind of work could I realistically continue? What skills might I need to learn or update? How could technology help, even if it doesn't come naturally at first? Those are very different questions from the ones we were encouraged to ask years ago. And I don't think I'm alone in this. I think a lot of people are quietly realizing and that staying comfortable later in life may involve learning things we didn't expect to be learning at this stage, especially around tech, flexibility, and self-directed work. If you're comfortable sharing in the comments, I'd really love to hear. Are you thinking about working longer, but in a different way? Have you considered self-employment or flexible work, even if it feels unfamiliar? Or are you feeling unsure about how tech fits into your future working life? You don't have to have the answers, just where you're at. This channel isn't about pushing people into tech or self-employment. It's just about making these conversations feel calmer, more approachable, especially when the change isn't optional but gradual and necessary, because retirement hasn't disappeared, but for many people it now sits alongside learning new ways to carry on earning, often later in life than we ever expected, and acknowledging that is often the first step towards feeling steadier about the road ahead.